Good afternoon and welcome to Conversations in the Den with Maria Fisher and Jen from Wolfenden. Today our podcast is a little different day and time to accommodate either things that we had to take care of. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope you all staying safe and using your PPE and you know sometimes I feel like killing Dougie Ford. I call him Dougie Ford because I have to call him something other than Doug Ford. Um, because he's like puts us in this. I know it's not his fault, but at times it feels like he's like put us in this isolation that is like getting now a little bit out of control.
Yeah, yeah.
But I hope everyone is doing well.
Yeah, me too. Hope you all are staying safe.
Yes. And
And
so today
glad
we
you're.
don't have a guest. Today we're answering questions
Yeah.
that we've been sent by previous guests, by either previous guests or by viewers.
Yeah, so this one is actually special because it's a group of moms. And some of these moms had some questions for you folks, just because one of the topics that comes up is we talk a lot about parenting and motherhood. And although we're talking about survival, it's a big topic that comes up. So all these moms have questions for you. They've given us permission, just as a disclaimer, to use their first name and the initial of their last name. So we're going to start with Zainab's question. And Zainab W. asks, I was surprised you both speak so well. Did you have speech therapy after your stroke? Any challenges with eating like chewing? What about swallowing?
Okay. Uh, I'm gonna answer this question kind of in a humorous way because, in a way, it's like when this joke happened, in my mind I was speaking, but in reality, likely not. But I wasn't aware of that. So when I was in the hospital, I worked the university that I worked at was fairly close to the hospital, and so at lunchtime, everybody who was in shock because they're like, "How does this young girl end up having a stroke? Like we just saw her yesterday. Like we were just laughing and talking with her yesterday." And so everybody from my office came into the hospital, and I was talking, but I was talking in my mind a lot of the time. I would say, prior to actually realizing that I could speak. But I believe initially I probably was slurring because my daughter was downstairs and I was calling her because I was on the floor, but she did not hear me, and I could hear myself saying her name with a slur.
Yeah.
But I did not. I That was not one of the issues that I had. Speaking was not an issue. Eating was not an issue. It's an issue now.
Well,
um, Meaning eating more than I should, not
yeah.
not the inability to eat. But no, I always joke and I say even a stroke couldn't shut me up because they came into the hospital and I was talking to everybody and joking with everybody and
What?
but I was talking a lot in my mind. Like when I was laying on the floor for those 6 hours, I was talking to myself in my mind. I was making jokes in my mind. I was saying I've fallen and I can't get up. um, I'm just silly like that. But
That,
I also remember being in the hospital, and I worked in finance, so I remember being in the hospital, and I remember like numbers were going through my mind. So there was a lot of things like I was saying. It was like my mind was trying to remember things. So I was saying 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 8 is 16. Like all these things were going on in my head.
well, that's good that you didn't have problems, but I did. I had a lot of problems speaking, and I had a lot of help. I think one of the things that happened to me was my vocal cords wouldn't close, and so I would run out of
They
air
wouldn't close.
almost after
So what does that? What does that mean?
it because your vocal cords help you to speak and project. And so when your vocal cords doesn't close as you speak like this, mine was staying open like this. And so the air for making words was escaping too fast. And so if I said 4 words, I'd be out of breath. I had no more breath left. And
Oh,
so,
okay. Okay.
and
I thought
so,
you meant you wouldn't shut up.
ah, no, I mean, that would have been
No,
that would have
I
been
did not
good.
have swallowing issues. I did not have um I had an ischemic stroke, by the way. So
Yeah,
that's the blood clot in the side of my carotid artery that I had.
yeah.
So each stroke has different
And I think,
side effects.
absolutely, Maria. And you had no problems, but I had several problems. I mean, for Zainab, my vocal cords wouldn't close. I went to a speech language therapist. She taught me how to speak properly, and she taught me how to slow write down so that I can talk in phrases rather than in sentences. She also taught me how to breathe properly. And so a lot of when the first I would say 6 months of my stroke, people couldn't hear what I was saying because as far as I was concerned, I was speaking loudly, and as far as they were concerned, I was saying absolutely nothing.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
or I was whispering. And so what she
Okay.
did was she said to me, I want you to go outside, take your phone, and I want you to call a good friend, and I want you to feel what it feels like to speak in a loud voice that people can actually hear you. And so I called my good friend Sonia, and I'm like, hey, can you hear me? And she goes, I'm so sorry, Jen, I can't hear you. And I go, can you hear me now? And I kept raising the and so we did this for like 6 or 7 times. And finally she said, I can hear you now. And I went, okay, I
Wow.
remember what that feels like right here.
No.
So
Yes.
when I speak, I can know to remember that that is how loud I need to speak. I need to have an effect going on here in order for me to know that people are
Oh,
hearing me.
okay.
So not only did I have speaking problems, I had breathing problems that was associated with my speaking, but I also had eating problems because, and I still do every now and then because my vocal cords are still rehabilitating, and so I have to be careful how I eat. And Jeff had this problem too.
So 10
Um,
years later, 10 years later, your vocal cords are still not healed?
not completely. It's made
Oh,
leaps and
okay.
bounds in rehabilitation, but it still needs work. And so I
Okay,
have to
now
be very careful.
what do you do for rehabilitation for that?
You just have to be careful how you do things. I have to be very careful about running out of air still. I still
Oh,
have to be
okay, so you have to
conscious of
watch your
my
breathing.
breathing when I speak still. I have to be careful when I eat. I cannot be stuffing my mouth with food because the chances of some of that food escaping into the left side of my throat and causing me to cough incessantly is very high. And sometimes I with my saliva or even water that I drink. So I would say 10 years later, I am much better. I would say 95% better, but I still have to be very careful. But yes, Zainab, I did have problems speaking, and I use a speech and language therapist. I did have problems swallowing and eating, and I used a physiotherapist, I believe it was, or an occupational therapist, I don't remember. However, my husband had a lot of rehab with his, so he was able to guide me as well in how to drink properly and to eat properly in a way that doesn't, cause a lot of problems or future further problems. But yeah, so to answer your question, the answer is yes. And thank you for the
Yes.
compliment
And
that I,
I did not have problems speaking, but I did have speech pathologists. I did see a speech pathologist for a little while. I'm just in learning how to understand. It wasn't about my speaking, it was more about my understanding. So to clarify how to basically how to summarize something quickly in a like if somebody asked me something. So I
yeah,
did have a speech pathologist at the rehabilitation hospital,
yeah.
but it was for more of my cognitive than it was for my speaking.
Okay.
And I think it's so important that you both express like the two different ways that speech pathology can be helpful, and that there's
Yes,
such a
absolutely.
breadth there that it can help a lot of folks with different illnesses, different recovery periods. And I wanted to go on to Li Jingxi's question, and I apologize, Li Jing, if I'm not saying that right. And she asked, My mom had a stroke, but she's in China. I want to send her something for her recovery. What would you have wanted? I don't have a clue.
Okay.
Okay, well, first of all, um, it depends on what does she have physically. What are her physical deficits? Um, you can I mean, if sometimes they have like the foot if people have foot drop issues, they may have to sleep with a foot brace on, but that would have to be something that her doctor would have to tell her to discuss with her or her physio.
Yeah.
But if you want to send her a treat, now that's different. You can send her some dark chocolate. You can send her some nuts. Those are things that all help with brain function.
Yeah. I think for me, one of the things I wished someone had sent me after my stroke was a little book written by Jill Bolte Taylor called My Stroke of Insight. And I wish they had sent that to me on tape. Um, but I wish they had also done the work of
So did you say
slowing it
on tape?
on tape so that I can listen to it. But I
Okay,
needed
but
to. I,
Jennifer,
Mhm.
this is 2021. We don't have tapes.
Well,
So you mean on Audible or a Kindle or something like that?
whatever. The library still has tapes and CDs on books. So I'm thinking China, maybe the library has them. And but what I would really have liked was that book on tape or CD or DVD, however, so I can
Okay,
play
so
it.
my stroke of the name of the
But
book was called My Stroke of what? Sorry.
My Stroke of Insight by Jill
Insight.
Bolte Taylor. But I wanted them to do the work of slowing it down to a very slow pace so that my brain can hear each word. And so for me, if someone had done that for me, of sending me the book on tape or DVD or however, or audio, but had done the work of slowing it down so that I can hear it, I think that would have really encouraged me, because one of the things Jill talks about is she talks a lot about how while she couldn't speak and she couldn't move and she couldn't
Mhm.
communicate, she talks a lot about how I'm still in here. I'm still in here.
Yes.
Don't think I can't hear you. Don't talk about me like I'm not here. Don't talk about me like I'm dead. Don't think I'm not smart still. I'm still smart. I just can't
Yes.
speak. And I
I
think
think that that's a very important point that you're making,
survivor,
Jennifer.
as a stroke survivor in those first few months, I think for me, I really needed affirmation and confirmation that someone else understands that I'm still in here and I haven't gone anywhere. I can't speak and I can't move, but I'm still here. I'm still the old person. And nobody would affirm that because I didn't know how to express that. So that would be something that I would have wanted, you know?
Yes. Yes. That definitely. Anything that's inspirational, inspiring others, stories from others, things of that nature, would be a good gift. Audible
Yeah.
books, things like that. Maybe a Kindle reader,
Yeah.
because sometimes your vision is not exactly on par. Like I've been noticing lately that I never, I mean, I just got new glasses not too long ago, but I noticed recently that I tend to close my left eye a lot. So I don't know, might have to go back and get my eye checked again.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing I would say for, I'm sorry, can you please say her name for me again, Alicia?
Yeah, I believe it Li Jing.
Liching. Oh, so Liching, I think one of the other things you can do from here in Canada or wherever in the world you are, because you said you're not in China, call family members and ask them to visit your mom, but tell them not to stay more than 20 minutes. Also, ask them to, when they get there, just give her hugs and sit quietly. Don't ask a lot of questions. But what they can do in that 15 to 20 minutes is update her on their life. And don't make it weird. Just sit for 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes, and chat with her. Tell her about you. Let her know that one of these days when she's got her speech back, I don't know if she doesn't have speech, but let's per se she doesn't have speech. Just let her know that one of these days when she has speech back, we'll continue talking. She can speak, or let's per se she speaks, but it takes her a long time to gather her words. Then that person needs to visit and say, you know what? I know you're looking for words. It's okay. Take your time. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. And give her a chance to gather her words. The thing about us survivors is that in those first few years is that we have to go find our words and string it together. And so a lot of times people think we were ignoring them, we're being disrespectful, we don't want to speak. And it's not true. It's just that we are going to find our words. But by the time we find them, you have moved on to a different thought and we feel stupid. So people need to be patient that go to visit her and let her speak and wait. It might take 5 uncomfortable minutes to wait for your mom to speak or say a phrase because she's going to find her words. But please tell your family and friends, please endure the 5 minutes, because this is all therapy for your mom, but it all validates that she's still in there and that she's still valuable and that she's still important. And that's the most important thing for her right now, feeling valuable and important.
Yes. One of the things I remember hearing a lot when I first had the stroke was people talking about how they felt like they were the Walking Dead. Meaning that they were alive inside, but that they or it, where they were able to function on the outside, but they were not able to function on the inside.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, so just taking the time to really speak with her, interact. She does definitely need interaction. That will help her cognitive. But just being patient, like Jen said, is very important.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree. Visitors need to be patient, and they should not stay longer than 20 minutes, a half hour. She may say she wants company longer than 20 minutes, longer than a half hour, but the fact is that her brain shuts down. All survivors, their brain shuts down after about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then they start doing stuff that makes people think that they're being antisocial. They start looking at their phones because basically our brain shuts down. And so we start looking at our phones because really we're not hearing anything anybody is saying. We're not processing it. We do a lot of smiling and a lot of nodding because we don't want to appear stupid. But in fact, the brain is under so much trauma that after about 20 minutes of conversation, 25 minutes, we are done like dinner. We have shut down, but we're smiling.
Okay, but that again depends on what kind of stroke she had because I did not have those issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that helps, Weijing. It gives you some insight and that you're
Yes.
able to take what
And
you
if you'd like
need
to send
from
us some more
that.
information,
Yeah,
as far as like what kind of stroke she had, and maybe we could do a little bit of research for you. That would be
definitely.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll definitely make sure she sees this video and she can share what she
Well,
wishes.
one
Um,
of the things I find,
so
sorry,
go ahead.
Alicia, go ahead.
Nope, go
I mean,
ahead.
one of the things I find with stroke survivors is that we don't know what we can and can't handle. I've had Jeff and I, and my in this one particular circumstance, I sat with a family member, and the entire family had one complaint. Their family member who had the stroke was always complaining that they weren't visiting and staying long enough. And so I said, explain to me what happens when you visit. And they said, when we visit, 15 minutes later, our surviving member gets on their phone and starts scrolling through Facebook. And then they complain that we don't stay long enough. And I said, that's because they don't know that their brain has shut down and they're no longer in the conversation. So you might be talking to them in the room. You might be having a great time trying to include them in the conversation. Yes, they're scrolling on Facebook because guess what? Their brain has shut down, but they don't even know their brain has shut down. And so this is something that we do unconsciously, is that we check right out, but even us don't know that we've checked out. And so you got to be patient with us, because we really don't know a lot of stuff about how we've changed in those first few years.
No, well, we don't know. No, we don't know. And
Yeah.
people also what I found was using different terminologies. I found that some people after stroke don't want to be labeled as disabled. They want to say I'm differently able, or maybe I'm physically challenged. They don't want the label, the labeling. So
Yeah.
if people, if maybe when people are interacting with your mom, if maybe they would just, if you could find out what she's comfortable with, and instead of using the word maybe disabled, maybe saying physically challenged or whatever makes her comfortable,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we want to still feel like we're still here, and
Yeah.
that and we are different, but you know, but different not necessarily in a negative way. And so we wanted to stay as positive as possible.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been able to hear the word handicap or disabled for the first few years of my life. So I would say you're absolutely right, Maria. Refrain from using that word around any survivor. I didn't mind the word survivor. Um, I didn't mind the word, infraction, brain infraction. I didn't mind those the words, but I wasn't able to withstand words like handicap or um, disabled for the first few years of my life. So I'd say please don't use that word around anyone that's rehabilitating. It's hard for us to understand. It's hard for us to accept. We're already struggling with how we've changed. Hearing those words just sets us back.
Yeah.
Yes, because this is as new. This is as new for us as it is for you. You know,
Exactly.
Mm.
and this is the thing people don't understand. We're all transitioning together. Um,
Absolutely.
the things that you saw me doing yesterday that you cannot no longer see me doing today, I'm transitioning to learn how to do things differently. So
Yeah.
just as you're transitioning to seeing me differently or focusing differently, um, I'm actually also dealing with that. So if you could just back to being patient and being understanding and not being abrasive or aggressive. And also I'm also gonna mention this because this I was not aware. I mean, when before you have a stroke, you probably don't know anything about strokes. I knew nothing about strokes,
Yeah, me either.
and so it's all new to us, just as it's new to you.
Yeah.
So I mean, and the one thing that I remember was going to the movies. Oh my God. I was in a wheelchair initially, and I remember my boyfriend and his children wanted to go see that Hunger Games, whatever that Hunger Games movie was at the time in 2015. And we had to sit in the front because of the wheelchair. And oh my gosh, the overstimulation was overwhelming. Like the overstimulation, the noise, the big screen, all of that was just way too much for me to handle.
I agree. I agree. Me too.
So
Me
yeah, so
too.
a lot of overstimulation is not really very good initially for a stroke survivor. They have
Yeah.
to, their brain has to be able to take it all in
Yeah.
slowly. So
Absolutely.
I would advise it if you want to do something quiet is probably much better. Um, um, or something with less stimulation. I started an event management company shortly after 2 years after my stroke, but my events were not events that had bright lights. They weren't events that had I had singers, but they were mostly it wasn't like anything like hard rock or it was just something very soothing. Because it's very difficult to deal with with a lot of noise in large rooms with large groups of people. It's a lot. It's a lot. Like our brain is not able to grasp all of that going on at one time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, on that note, I really wanted to speak to Heather's question. especially with regards to the fact that a lot of us walking around don't know what a stroke is unless we've had experience or had to do research or, a
Hmm.
family or friend has had one. And Heather D actually asked, how would you explain strokes to a kid? My son is 7 and his great grandpa, my grandpa, had an ischemic stroke. All he knows he is sick. What should I say? Should I explain it to him? He's smart for his age.
Well, I
Mhm.
think I remember explaining to one of my nieces or nephews. I remember saying that a part of my brain did not get enough oxygen, and a part of my brain has is no longer functioning. Um, and so it's caused me to think slower.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I didn't want to say, "Oh, my brain cells are dead," and like that's not gonna work. So you have to kind
So
of explain to them that there are certain parts of their brain that are not well, and I think that might be sufficient.
yeah, I think one of the ways I've explained it over the years to many people is and a lot of younger people have just kind of got they just got it because Jeff and I used to speak to high school students. I think grade 9. I don't remember. Might have been 9 or 10 or 11. I don't remember. But it was a yearly thing. But the pandemic, that didn't happen. But the way I explained it to them was, this is my brain, and someone threw a cheesecloth on it, and so now I am trying to think, but the cheesecloth is still there, or the cloth is still there. So I don't have all of this part of my brain to think. I only have this part. So grandpa, his brain, it got hurt. And the way I want to explain to you, son, is that this is grandpa's brain. Someone threw a clot on it. So grandpa is really trying hard to talk to you, but it's really, really hard for him to put the sentences together because inside his head, there's a lot of trauma going on. So you know how when you break your leg, when a person breaks their leg, how you see how they have a cast on it, and you can see the blood too. Like sometimes you can see the bone when it breaks and the flesh breaks. Well, in Grandpa's brain, his brain is broken, but you can't see the bandage, and you can't see the blood, and you can't see the bone because his skull is covering it all up. But it's the same thing. So it's going to take time, just like it's going to take time for the guy with the broken leg to heal. And you can see the bandage and you can see the leg cast. It's the same for grandpa. Grandpa is going to take a while to heal from what's going on in his head. And I'm sorry you can't see what's going on in his head. And I'm sorry you can't see the damage that's going on in his head, but he's still there. It's just that he can't talk as fast as he used to, and he can't respond as fast as he used to. In the same way, the guy with the broken leg can't walk as fast and he can't skip. In the same way, grandpa can't think as fast. And a lot of times when I tell people, and I don't even know if Jeffrey or I came up with this, basically what we would say is, the person that's got the broken leg, well, that's me. But my brain's broken, but I can't open my head and show it to you. But my brain feels like the guy with the broken leg. And so I find that when I explain it like that, sometimes people go, oh, your brain's broken, but it's inside of your skull. It's inside of your head, and I can't see it, and you can't show it to me, but all the damage is there, and you're trying to recover. Oh, I get it.
But there are people who do have scars because they've had hemorrhages and they've had stitches in their heads.
Yeah,
So they are some people. Sometimes you are able to see
yeah,
some damage if that's something you're comfortable showing that person.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
with even with adults, I'm explaining to them all the time like that when the brain blood flows through your arteries into your brain. When the blood flow stops, the oxygen stops.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that the blood flow is what brings the oxygen into the brain. And so
Yeah.
when your blood flow is not flowing into your brain, or you have a burst in your brain, the oxygen levels are what causes your brain needs oxygen to function. And when
Yeah.
there's no oxygen, like you can't breathe, and so your brain is like slowly, each cell is shutting down,
Yeah.
and then therefore, so like for me, I had a right side, I had a corroded blockage in my right side, and so my left side is deficient. Um, if you have it in your left side, your right side will be deficient.
Yeah. And those are things that I think the 7-year-old will understand too. The left side, right side affected, because it's a good chance for them to understand how the brain works. Um, and so they will understand, hey, when you press the right brake, the left side comes on, when you press the left brake, the right side lights come on, and they'll get that part, about right side, left side. At least I think so. And you say he's really smart. So I think, pick out what you need from what Maria and I have said, and figure out what exactly is going to help him to understand what's going on with grandpa. But do encourage him to do a couple of things. Hug grandpa really tightly, sit on his lap if that's possible. Pull if his arms doesn't work, encourage him to sit close to grandpa and pull his arm around him. Grandpa wants to hug him, but if his arm doesn't work, he needs somebody to pull that arm around him. He wants to give kisses. He might not be able to purse his lips, but so encourage your son to go up to grandpa, kiss him on the cheek, touch his hair. He's not fragile. It's just that his brain is not cooperating with his body. His brain is not cooperating with his tongue. His brain is not cooperating with his sight. It's just not cooperating with the rest of his body. And so when our brain is not cooperating, the things a child is used to, it might appear to the child as though, grandpa is just not interested anymore. And it's not true. What grandpa needs is a little bit of help in being
Mm-hmm.
himself. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, these things will be helpful. But take what you want and disregard the rest, because we don't know what's going to work.
Yeah. So that actually really, spoke to some of my experiences working with stroke survivors and their families, especially young kids. So thank you so much for both of you for sharing that. We are almost out of time here. We're actually a little over. But that was all our questions for this week. So I hope everyone found that helpful. I know before we go, I just wanted to share with everyone a little bit about February. So folks who are staying tuned. So February is American Heart Month. In Canada, it's Heart and Stroke Month. So all of our guests for the month of February will have a
Heart and stroke survivors.
yeah. Or they might be living with an existing condition that has dramatically changed their lives, or they may have experienced something like a heart attack or a stroke. So please stay tuned for that. You can see already Maria and Jen have so much valuable information to share, and adding another guest in just really enhances that. So please keep sending your questions right now to conversations@gmail.com, or just leave them in the comments below and I'll make sure we get to them.
Yes.
Yeah, and thank you
Thank you,
very much
Alicia,
for
for all
tuning
your
in.
work. Yep.
And please subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We really appreciate, and we're really trying to do. We have a mission here. We're trying to inform. We're trying to educate. We're trying to ensure that people understand. We're trying to provide a service that you can't get at your doctor, because your doctor doesn't have time to sit down and explain everything to you and sit and talk and give you the guidance and support that you need. And he may not even know, because he's only read it. He may not have. Well, he hopefully has not experienced it.
Yeah.
But we're just speaking from our experience, and that's
Yeah.
all that we can do. And we're hoping that we can assist in that manner by giving you the real truth of how to handle this.
Yeah. Well, I
Because
hope you were
it's not
encouraged today,
it is
everybody.
really a marathon. I mean, like, I'm a 5-year stroke survivor, 6 year 6 year stroke survivor.
Yeah,
6 years, wow.
I
And Jen
know.
is 10 years, 10 years joke survivor.
It's going to be 11 soon.
Wow.
I know, I know. Well, listen, I hope everybody was encouraged today. Take
Yes.
care and do have a great weekend, everybody.